All right, hello again. This is Jeff Scott of Blackhawk Technical College. I've been going over our textbook, Sam's Teach Yourself Bootstrap in 24 Hours for the 158 Advanced Website Development class for the fall 2016 semester, and I'm up to Chapter 18, Transitions, Buttons, Alerts, and Progress Bars. We have 4 objectives in this hour. We want to learn what Bootstrap transitions are for, how to adjust buttons, how to add alerts and make them dismissible, and how to create progress bars. All right. As mentioned, Bootstrap offers a lot of things that you might see on dynamic pages. All right. The plugins covered in this hour are ones you often see on pages that change a lot and or provide information over time to users. In particular, the transition.js, button.js, and alert.js plugins are covered in this particular hour or chapter, along with talking about progress bars. Okay? All right, we've talked about transitions before in other classes. In particular, we talked about transitions with jQuery in the 152-167 class. But as mentioned here, transitions are animated effects, and they can be used in a lot of different places. Typically, they're done with CSS. Notice that the Bootstrap plugin for transitions improve how transitions work when the CSS transitions don't, as it says, especially in older browsers. So transitions are used in a lot of different things. I don't feel the need to read to you this morning, but you can see they've been in virtually every chapter we've gone over in this section, which is chapters 14 through 20. All right, the nice thing about the transition.js plugin is that you don't have to explicitly call it. But if you want to have nice looking transitions, you should be sure to include it or use the full bootstrap.js file. And I can't keep saying that too many times. That's typically what you would do, would be to use the complete bootstrap.js file. All right. Chapter starts then with buttons on the top of page 294. And you know that what buttons are, all right? With the button.js plugin, you can control the state of the button, toggle it on or off, and turn radio buttons into checkboxes, into buttons if you want to. If something is going to take some time after a click, it can be useful to provide an indicator to your users. You can change the state of the button, and they show an example right here. It's changing into the loading state, and what they basically have done is kind of dimmed the blue on the button. I've told this story before, but I always find it amazing. You may or may not remember this, but back in the day with Microsoft, when something used to be loading, you'd get the little egg timer, and it would just basically keep twirling. And I would watch people sit there for a long time watching what was going on. And I said, what are you doing? Well, I'm waiting. It's loading, but it'll come back. Okay. Changing the state of a button, as it says, uses the button method that swaps text out of a button to another different data attribute defined in the state. For example, the button that's shown here is written here. That's where you're changing it to loading. Now, it could have said something else first. All right? Very well might have. You can set multiple states on buttons if there's a reason to do that. All right. Caution here. On page 295. Firefox saves the state of forms even if the page is reloaded. This is done to assist readers so they don't lose form data, in other words, to make the form sticky. But if your button needs to reset when the page loads, this can cause problems. One workaround is to use the autocomplete equal off. And here's some more that you can look at if you're interested in that. And, my first inclination would be kind of to be a smart aleck here and say, well, then just use Chrome. But realize that there are a lot of browsers out there all right, that are popular browsers, and Firefox is one of them. So, of course, you should always be testing every part of your site on multiple browsers and on multiple versions of different browsers. Okay. All right. You can activate the toggling of a single button with a data toggle equal button attribute. As it says, it sets the button to clicked and then unclicked as you turn it on and off. Well, that should make sense. That's what a toggle does. You can also set the button to be pre-toggled by adding the active class and the ARIA pressed true as shown right here. And again, as we've said many times throughout this semester, typically the reason that you're going to do that and work around and play around with the ARIA attribute is for people that have, especially screen readers, but people who are challenged in any way and can't typically look at a website the way that you or I might do so. Checkbox and button groups. If you have a button group that contains checkboxes or radio button controls, you can turn them into selectable buttons. And they give you an example right here. Place the attribute data-toggle equal buttons on the button group container div. Then surround the input tags with a label and define the buttons in the button class. All right, and here's the example. I just want to mention one thing to you very quickly. I'm going off script, so to speak, a little bit. Oh, where is it? Yesterday, I went out. This was my day yesterday, and I went through this Bootstrap tutorial. And if you notice, it's got about, it must have 30 or 40 different things in here. All right. And then I went down to the Bootstrap examples that are down here. The FAQs you can look at on your own. But the examples, what this did was it's got 25 different types of Bootstrap programs. Grid system, typography, tables, lists, forms, images, icons, navs, nav bar, breadcrumbs and pagination, labels and badges, progress bars, utility components and classes, buttons, drop-downs, tooltips, popovers, alert messages, tabs, modals, accordion, carousel, typed, scrolls by, and affix. What you should notice in there is many of those things that are in there are things that we've already gone over in class. Long story short, there's 223 scripts in there. And what I did was I went in and made all those scripts work. So here's the 25 different categories. I had to add some images because there weren't any in there, so I added my images. I made my own. I found this one online. It was called Slide 1. And from there, I made my own Slide 2 and my own Slide 3. Okay, so they're not real pretty. They needed an avatar, so I just grabbed that one. I think that's from, I don't remember the name of the show, but you know it. Another small avatar, picture of the sky, and something I just needed a 125 by 125 JPEG. So I threw those out there, and oh yeah, there's a smiley here too. All right. But the point is, you now have all 223 of those, and for each particular section, I also found one or more associated bits of documentation on that same site. All right? So you've got all that information. Hopefully you'll take a look at it. All right, there are some button methods here, and these button methods are shown on the middle of page 297. As it says, the three button methods are toggle, reset, and string, which swaps the button text. Toggle just makes it appear activated or deactivated. Reset, as it says, resets the button state, changing the text back to the original, and button will change it. Working with alerts, again, this should look familiar to you. You've seen in a lot of different places, in a lot of different ways in this textbook, you have seen the different kinds of alerts. All right, the green for success, the blue for information, the yellow for warning, and the red for danger. It's more the color of the text on here, but notice when you work with regular alerts, you get the background color also. All right. So it says if you want your customers to be able to dismiss alert after they've read it, you add the alert dash dismissible to it. And what that does is that should put an X up here in the upper right-hand corner. And click on it and it'll go away. So here's what they look like with the dismissible alerts. Alerts also have some methods that you can use with them. Okay, these methods are shown on page 300 in the book. There are just a couple of them. There's alert. Okay, as it says, it makes an alert listen for click events. And there's the alert close, which closes the alert by removing it from the DOM. All right, sometimes you'll see you'll hear people call it destroying it too. As far as events, there's close. As it says, it fires immediately as the close method is called, and closed, which fires after the close method has been called. All right. We've all seen progress bars, middle of page 300. You've all seen something that looks like this. Progress bars can be nice for a lot of different reasons. One reason is sometimes they do provide information to a user to let them know that some kind of an action is taking place and how far it is from completion. You can use static progress bars pretty easily, and as mentioned here, you can also set dynamic progress bars that update periodically on a dynamic page. Now, notice the caution here. Not all browsers fully support animated progress bars. IE9 and below do not. And Opera 12 does not support animations. As always, the way you find this stuff out is test, test, test. So to build a progress bar, as mentioned here, down towards the bottom of, or the top of the screen here, and shown in your book on the bottom of page 300, you create a div container with a class of progress, which creates a full but empty bar. Inside, you put another div with a class progress bar. As it says, to be accessible, you should set it up working with the ARIA attributes, and I can't keep saying this enough. It's one thing to talk about this, it's another to do it. So I will expect any website that you create for the fall semester to be completely accessible to those who have any kind of limitations. Here's an example. So you'll notice value now is 20. The max is 100, so it's 1/5 of the way through. If your progress bar is showing at a very low progress level, it might not be enough to just explain it. You may also have to set a minimum width so you can put a label in there also. All right. You can style a progress bar. Again, this should look very familiar to you on page 302 in the book, because what we're talking about again here are using the colors. Blue, basically green for success, blue for more information, the kind of yellow-orange for warning, and the red for danger. Okay. You can make progress bars look fancier with a progress bar stripe class, and you can add an active class. So again, what are they doing in here? Excuse me, they're giving it more of a dynamic type of look, which you may or may not agree with. You may like it, you may not like it, but either way, in all sincerity, it's fine using it either way. All right, that pretty much takes us through this hour. So we looked at CSS transitions, how to modify buttons, we looked at alerts, and we looked at progress bars. Okay? One Q&A question in your example buttons image, you created a checkbox image that had the same colors as your site design. How did you do that? And that is they worked with an internal style sheet. Oh, I guess there's a couple more here. Again, these are on page 306 in the book. When should I use alerts on pages? Whenever you want to convey additional information to customers. Typically when something has changed, and it's probably in their best interest to be alerted. Finally, I want my progress bar to update automatically based on a timer. How do I do that? Typically, you're going to do that using jQuery. And they show an example right here. All right, as far as the quiz, on pages 307, 308, and 309, number 1, what does the transition.js plugin do in the Bootstrap JavaScript? And the answer is B. It helps emulate CSS transitions in browsers that don't support them. Number 2, what does the data-loading-text attribute do? The answer is A, it changes the button state. Number 3, which attribute is required to create a pre-toggle button? The answer is E, both data-toggle equal button and the active class. Number 4, what, if anything, is wrong with this HTML? The answer is C, the data-toggle equal buttons attribute belongs in the .button-group element. Number 5, contextual classes are required for Bootstrap alerts. True. Number 6, which class do you use to indicate that an alert can be closed? And the answer is A, .alert-dismissible. Number 7, in the alert.js, is the alert.js plugin required to add an alert to a Bootstrap page? The answer is D. No, you require the plugin only if the alert is dismissible. Number 8, which plugin is required to add to progress bars? The answer is D. None of the above. Number 9, true or false, contextual classes are required for Bootstrap progress bars. The answer is false. Number 10, what does the .progress-bar-stripe class do? The answer is A, it styles the progress bar with stripes. We've knocked off another chapter, so I'll come back and go over Chapter 19, Collapse and Accordion, soon.